Rosalind Franklin and the Shape of Life. Rosalind Franklin was a British chemist working in London in the early 1950s, when scientists were trying to understand how genetic information was stored. Using a powerful X-ray diffraction method, she produced an image known as Photo 51 while studying DNA fibers. The image revealed a clear pattern that showed DNA had a double helix structure. Her data was later used by other researchers to build the famous DNA model that explained how genes are copied and passed on. Although her own published research supported the discovery, she was not given the recognition she deserved at the time. The understanding of DNA became the foundation of modern genetics, medicine, and biotechnology. Today, Franklin is remembered as one of the scientists who made the discovery of DNA's structure possible. Gladys West. Gladys West was an American mathematician who began working for the U.S. Navy in the late 1950s, when satellites were just beginning to orbit the Earth. Her job was to calculate the precise shape of the planet using complex equations and early computers. These calculations were needed so satellites could accurately measure positions on the ground. While she was trying to improve satellite tracking, her work became the mathematical foundation for the Global Positioning System. GPS later allowed people to find their exact location anywhere on Earth using satellites. Her calculations made modern navigation, mapping, and location services possible. Although her work was not publicly known for many years, she is now recognized as one of the key figures behind GPS technology. Emily Warren Roebling. Emily Warren Roebling became involved in the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge in the 1870s after her husband, the project's chief engineer, became seriously ill. Living in New York, she learned advanced engineering concepts so she could manage communication between the engineers and the construction crews. For more than a decade, she oversaw the daily progress of the bridge and made sure the plans were followed correctly. The Brooklyn Bridge eventually connected Manhattan and Brooklyn, changing how people and goods moved through the city. It became one of the most important engineering achievements of its time. Although her role was not widely recognized during her life, she is now remembered as the woman who ensured the bridge was completed. Chien-Shiung. Chien-Shiung was a physicist working in the United States in the 1950s when scientists believed certain laws of nature could never be broken. At Columbia University, she performed an experiment using radioactive cobalt to test one of these rules, known as parity. The results showed that the rule did not always apply at the subatomic level, overturning decades of scientific belief. This discovery changed how physicists understood the behavior of particles and became a key part of modern physics. Although others received much of the credit, Wu's careful experimental work made the discovery possible. Lise Meitner. Lise Meitner was a physicist working in Europe in the 1930s, studying how atoms reacted when hit by particles. After fleeing Nazi Germany, she continued analyzing experimental results sent to her from colleagues. She realized that uranium atoms were splitting into smaller parts and releasing enormous amounts of energy, a process she named nuclear fission. This discovery explained how nuclear reactions work and made both nuclear power and atomic weapons possible. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr was living in Hollywood during World War II, but in her spare time she studied engineering and naval technology. She learned that radio-controlled torpedoes could easily be jammed by enemy forces, making them useless in combat. In 1941, she worked with composer George Antheil to design a system that constantly changed radio frequencies in a synchronized pattern so signals could not be blocked. The U.S. Navy did not use the idea right away, but decades later the same principle became the foundation of modern wireless communication. Frequency hopping technology is now used in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and secure military systems. Alice Ball. Alice Ball was a young chemist working in Hawaii in 1915 when leprosy patients were still being sent away to isolated colonies because the disease was considered incurable. She developed a chemical method that turned chalmugra oil into a form that could be safely injected into the body. This allowed the medicine to enter the bloodstream and fight the disease for the first time. Patients who had been isolated for years began to recover and were able to return home. After Ball died suddenly, her work was taken and credited to someone else, and her name was nearly lost to history. Her treatment remained the best option for leprosy until modern antibiotics were developed, and today she is recognized as a pioneer of medical chemistry. Mary Anning. Mary Anning grew up in poverty in England in the early 1800s, collecting fossils from dangerous seaside cliffs to support her family. While searching for specimens, she discovered the first complete skeletons of ancient marine creatures, such as the ichthyosaur and the plesiosaur. These fossils showed that the Earth had once been home to creatures that no longer existed, which challenged many beliefs about the history of life. Scientists used her discoveries to develop early ideas about extinction and prehistoric worlds. Even though she was excluded from scientific societies, her work became the foundation of paleontology. Today, she is remembered as one of the most important fossil discoverers in history. Nettie Stevens. Nettie Stevens was an American biologist working in the early 1900s, when scientists still did not understand how an organism's sex was determined. By studying insect cells under a microscope, she noticed that males had a different pair of chromosomes than females. She identified these as what are now called the X and Y chromosomes, and showed that they determine whether an organism develops as male or female. This discovery proved that sex is decided by genetics, not by environment. Her work became a cornerstone of modern genetics and medicine, even though she received little recognition during her lifetime. Today, she is known as the scientist who revealed the genetic basis of sex. Stephanie Kwolek. Stephanie Kwolek was working at DuPont in the 1960s when she was trying to create a stronger fiber for industrial use. During one experiment, she produced a strange liquid that formed incredibly strong threads when spun. The material, later named Kevlar, turned out to be 5 times stronger than steel by weight. It was soon used to make bullet-resistant vests, helmets, and protective gear for police officers, soldiers, and emergency workers. Kevlar has since been used in aircraft, spacecraft, and many safety products. Kwolek's accidental discovery has saved countless lives and remains one of the most important materials ever developed. Henrietta Leavitt. Henrietta Leavitt was an astronomer working at Harvard Observatory in the early 1900s, studying photographs of distant stars. While analyzing a group of variable stars known as Cepheids, she discovered that the brightness of these stars was directly linked to how fast they pulsed. This allowed astronomers to calculate how far away they were. Her discovery made it possible to measure the true size of the universe for the first time. Later, scientists used her work to show that galaxies exist far beyond the Milky Way and that the universe is expanding. Leavitt had been cataloging stars, but her work transformed astronomy. Virginia Apgar. Virginia Apgar was an American doctor working in hospitals in the 1950s, when many newborn babies died because their condition was not quickly assessed. She created a simple scoring system to evaluate a baby's breathing, heart rate, muscle tone, and other vital signs immediately after birth. This system allowed doctors to quickly identify babies who needed urgent care. The Apgar score was adopted around the world and dramatically reduced infant mortality. Apgar had been trying to improve childbirth safety, but her method became one of the most important tools in modern medicine. Today, it is still used for nearly every baby born in hospitals. History is only remembered when people keep talking about it. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe.